Hello everyone, today I'm reviewing the New American Standard Bible, large print ultra-thin reference edition from the Lockman Foundation. Here's your exterior slipcase. It's a single piece. You have some information on the back, a sample of the text. This one is printed in China, and it is the 2020 edition of the NASB. This is the maroon leather text, and you have a little bit of information on the different features of this Bible with a color code system, which I thought was interesting for their slipcase. So here's the Bible itself. You'll notice right off that it is a very pronounced grain for being an imitation leather. I really enjoy the quality of the imitation leather that is coming out on Bibles. They have gotten really good about being deceptive in the sense of looking like real leather. It actually comes across as a little bit more of a brown than a maroon. You'll notice here on the interior, the end sheets are closer to a maroon color. So it's actually closer to a brown. Your exterior has your ISBN on the back, and then no markings whatsoever except on the spine, where you have 5 tooled spine indications. Holy Bible, New American Standard Bible 2020, large print, ultra thin, and then the NASB Lockman Foundation. There's a lot of information on this spine, but they did blind stamping, and so it's actually quite clean. And even though there's so much information, it doesn't really look too busy. So I'm glad that they did the blind stamping. The head and tail bands are brown. And you have 2 3/8" ribbons. These are not quite long enough, and they are not double satin, but they work. Could have been just a tiny bit longer. Opening it up, you have the maroon end sheet. There is reinforcement tape along the spine here, so it is well constructed. And then you get right into your presentation pages. So there's really no, except for the end sheet, which doubles as your final page, there's no extra cardstock between your presentation and the front or the back of the Bible. So they don't have any extra pages in there. Presented, then you have marriages, family trees for both husband and wife, and then your typical births and deaths and occasions to remember. Here's the New American Standard Bible and your publication page. This one is designed by 2K Denmark. The other editions that Lockman did recently with the 2020 were not done, at least for the non-premium, were not done by 2K Denmark, but this ultra thin was. You can see here it is the 2020 text and printed in China. And you can see here it's not laying quite flat, but it is staying open at the beginning. So with some use, this will easily lay flat. It is a larger Bible, so that will be the case. And speaking of which, the dimensions on this Bible are 9 1/4 inches tall by 6 1/2 inches wide by just over an inch thick. So it's about 1 1/16 inches. So it is on the larger end of Bibles, but it's thinner. So it's around 1 inch thick. And so it's not overly massive in the traditional sense of the term. Here's your table of contents. Books of the Bible. And then your preface to the New American Standard. Obviously, if you have not read that yet and you have a New American Standard, definitely read that. That helps you orient yourself with the stylistic techniques used for each translation. Here we have the Old Testament and Genesis, which will give you an idea for the features. Now, I will give a caveat at the beginning here. I am not usually a fan of the center column reference layout of Bibles. To me, it's always been a little bit too cluttered and not just something I gravitate to. However, there have been a couple Bibles I've reviewed now that have kind of swayed my appreciation more favorably toward this layout, and this is definitely one of them. I will compare one here at the end of this video that is the other one. But there's just something about having the references in the center that does help with just ease of access in using a Bible, especially as a reference edition. So here we have center column references, the upper half pertain to the left side of the page, and the bottom pertains to the right hand side. The text is an 11-point font. It is line matched. The paper is not super opaque, and I believe that is something that is different from the non-premium compared to the prime or premium editions that they have of this Bible. This one is printed in China, but the premium edition is printed in Korea, so the paper is better, I believe. You can also see that there is a blue tint to this. Kind of get in here. There's a very blue hue to this paper, so that is a downside to some of the cheaper Chinese paper in some Bibles, this one being one of them. So looking at the layout here, you have a double column, paragraph format. The verse numbers are very bold, and another thing is that the text itself is quite bold in this Bible. If you look at it just looking at the page, to me it jumps off quite excessively, and it's in some sense very loud, and that could be a problem, but I think the Prime Edition's kind of toned down on that, and the text wasn't quite so bold. But that's just something I've noticed with this particular edition. You have a line at the bottom of the page separating your textual footnotes. Now this Bible does have the full set of textual footnotes and cross-references. I believe it's around 95,000 cross-references and the full set of translated footnotes. There's really a ton of information in this Bible because of that, and even though it's a larger Bible, it's only about 1 inch thick, and so looking at it from that perspective, you have quite a bit of information as a study resource in one place. This is a 31 GSM paper. We'll get to a poetry setting here so you can see, as with traditional double column paragraph format Bibles, poetry and the like is in verse by verse. And you can see here, something I complained about in the other two Lockman editions that I reviewed was the pilcrows were a little bit misplaced in my opinion. They were too close to the verse numbers, which kind of blurred those together. This edition opted for a different design of the pilcrow. This probably has something to do with the 2K Denmark design team. I like this pilcrow design better, and they spaced it nicely between the verse and the verse number. So it does break up that view a little bit better and helps you see the verse number as opposed to seeing kind of a blur of ink on the page. You can kind of see how this ghosts. It is a little bit worse than I would like to see, but with the line matching, it's not too bad. Flipping to the New Testament, you'll see that it is a black letter text, something I do like in Bibles. Old Testament quotations are bold, and you do have those cited in the references. Getting to the end of the Bible, you have a different type of index. This is a NASB topical index of Old and New Testaments. So not only is it's not a very extensive index considering others that you might see in Bibles. As far as the number of references in this index, I believe it is a lot smaller than, say, just a regular concordance, but there's a lot more information. So there are more words in here than are actually found in Scripture, but they are alluded to, or the topics are alluded to. So antinomianism or anti-law is not obviously mentioned in Scripture, but they do have a section on it with reference to all the passages that deal with people who are against the law. So there's a little bit more in here than just a concordance, and so it's a little bit more helpful as a study tool as opposed to just looking up verses. I really appreciate seeing that in here. And at the end you have a couple lists of features, parables of Jesus, miracles, and then important events of Jesus' life in the Gospels. And then you have your 8 maps on semi-gloss paper. Again, not very thick paper, and then one piece of cardstock which kind of doubles as your end sheet. So really quick, I will compare the one other Bible that has similar features, and that is the New King James Classic Reference Center Column Reference Bible from Thomas Nelson. This one is one that was the first that really turned my eye in the direction of the center column reference. It was just designed so well. So here is a comparison of these two. And you can see this one has some different coloring options, but the general feel is very similar. This one is a little more column oriented, not quite so open, but again, there's a lot of information on this, and I believe the New American Standard here has a few more cross-references than the New King James. I can't be certain of that. It's probably around 90,000 in both. But this one does have all the translator footnotes, which, because this is the 2020, I believe there's probably a few more than the traditional 95 because they're explaining some of the alternate renderings that they used coming from the 95. So there's a little bit more information in this one when it comes to the textual footnotes, although both New King James and the New American Standard have amazing footnotes. So there's kind of a comparison between the two. I'll get to a double column section here so you can see that. There's a little bit more room in this one, and this one is verse by verse, but you can see overall it's very similar, and margin space is comparable as well. So this one is obviously New King James, and this one is New American Standard. So those are probably the two most comparable editions that I have of this layout. So there you have it. That is the New American Standard 2020 large print ultra-thin reference Bible in maroon leather text from the Lockman Foundation. Really enjoy this Bible, especially notable because I'm not usually a fan of center column reference, but it's designed very well. They do have this one in previous 1995 editions. This is not a new text block. This is one that they've had for a while and they've used for a while. They've just updated it with the 2020. The retail price last time I checked was $37.99, so you can probably get it for around $30, even less, at certain retailers. So it's a very affordably priced Bible and very useful and a powerhouse of information for personal study without being a study Bible. So hopefully this was a beneficial review and you were able to decide if this was something that you're interested in or not. Thanks for watching.